We're here for the Locksport Variety Hour, the 2-hour session, with TOOL and friends. So let's give it up for Lady Merlin, Max, Click, Ann, Aiden, Night Owl, No Hackney, No Sleep, Chaz, Spam, Smoke Legend, and, of course, Deviant Olem. Well, you're in the list, so you get a shout out. Enjoy.
This is so much fucking fun, and like, how many people have been coming to Hope for a while, right? So like, you would think that this is a topic that gets played out. There has been hacking locks and lockpicking content since I've been coming, and that's been H2K. And yet, every time they put us in a room, y'all show up. So we love you for being here. I do none of like the lockpick stuff at Hope anymore. People keep coming up to me. They're like, hey, you're that guy, I learned stuff from you here. I'm like, wasn't this year, because it was all these people. So please, TOOL and everyone else who comes out, can I get everyone to thank them for being here and missing all the cool talks to teach you? So even though they introed us, if you jump in on a topic, please re-intro yourself each time you speak up for the first couple of rounds, because there's a lot of names and a lot of people, and we're gonna have other friends coming up and other people rocking the mic. The way we're gonna do this, there's sort of 4 vague styles of event, and we'll flip through them a number of times. So this evening will consist of TOOL tutelage, which will be lessons that are not the intro talk, because let's face it, after 10 years or more, we've had the intro talk enough times on this stage, so you get that downstairs. Up here, the tutelage will be fun, different talks. Project box, stuff we've been working on or stuff someone else has been working on that we want to talk about. Maybe we will inspire you to work on something. That could be fun. Lulz hacking. Letters from Locksport, always a good thing to involve the audience, right? This is Q&A both from the internet or from yourselves. If you want to get those Fitbit steps in and walk all the way across to New Jersey and back all the way up this aisle to get to the microphone, you can rock a question to us there. And sometimes, I don't know if anybody brought some cool shit, but we usually try to do like locks from the audience, and we'll throw it up on, we'll do a little stuff going on the camera and make things happen. Woo, is that actually working? Badass. Wow. So professional. So yeah, now I'm off it. There we are. So yeah, locks from the audience, and what are they? What are they not like? We've got a couple of cool things we brought as well. We've got some shit to give away. I don't know if sleeping at the hotel pen is hard on your eyes and ears, but I always get earplugs and like eye masks when I fly up in Delta One. So like I'm gonna be flinging those out. I'm sure you have better things to give away, but right off the hop, we want to teach you some cool shit. And as we're talking, you'll be thinking about questions you want to ask. I think we're going to start all the way stage right. Boom, Maxie.
Hi everybody. I'm Max. I'm from Boston. How y'all doing?
So we're going to switch HDMI magics.
Woo!
Right.
Really, Boston?
Locks are awesome.
Locks in the yard.
There they are. So while they're switching that feed, what Max is going to talk about is the like multi-wheel kind of combination locks. Many times, how many people in this room while they're working on that have ever like shimmed a combo, like a gym locker lock, right? So that's, in America especially, when we think of a combination lock, that classic like gym locker lock is what a lot of people think of. But there's a lot of ways to do combination locks. You can do, you can do safes. Like we've done safe cracking stuff before. I'm a safe technician. You do some safe openings when you run into them. But as far as like interesting, weird hacks against combination locks, especially the brass body with the 4 dials, now you're seeing some nods even in the darkness. Max is kind of the guy for that. That was originally a design by Sesamee. Most people know it now as a Master Lock product. Master's really flooded that market. And you have all kind of good shit, right?
Yeah.
They got you hot on the wires?
We'll see. We choose
all right.
settings.
That's no problem.
It works.
I mean, worst case scenario, you switch seats with me and take this HDMI, but it's all good. We'll give it a couple more seconds.
Here's a booster seat.
Yeah. In the meantime, when everything doesn't work right at a con, what do we do?
Improvise.
Drink.
All right. Go down the line. You can actually introduce yourselves and what you're drinking while they're working on that HDMI. So we said Max is down there. He's gonna talk. Lady Merlin, what are you drinking?
Far from the Tree
Take it.
cider, pineapple jalapeno cider.
Woo!
From Boston.
Courtesy of Max.
My bag was an extra 50 pounds coming up.
Click. What are you drinking?
Wrench IPA.
So Portland.
We're getting
Yes.
No Hackney. It's a Michter small batch bourbon from Kentucky. Yeah. They know.
I'm drinking whiskey because I always am drinking whiskey.
Night Owl, right now I'm drinking some of that very nice Michter's whiskey, but also one of the members of the New York chapter of TOOOL passed away recently after a long illness, and amongst other things that he left to us was a bottle of some red absinthe.
Ooh.
So we're passing that along for the panel.
Yeah, sir.
So this talk might get weird later. You just
Yeah. Might be just
guaranteed.
Yeah, Ray,
Yeah,
what do you got?
I'm Ray from Germany, from the Sportfreunde der Sperrtechnik Deutschland. And I'm drinking Romulan Ale because in Germany we can drink normal alcohol since we're 16.
Right on.
I'm Chaz from New York, with the New York section of TOOOL, and I'm having absinthe in memory of Mr. E, and some of this lovely bourbon down here. It goes down real smooth.
Salute. Last drink and then Max is ready, I think. Oh, no, we got two people. Sorry.
Yeah,
Two more.
three.
Three. Oh, we got.
Don't
Come
forget
up here.
Spam,
Spam.
friend.
Smoke Legend, drinking absinthe for Mr. E, and what was this?
Bourbon.
It was bourbon. Apologies, it was bourbon. It was good, so
Good
I need a refill when we get a chance. Pass the mic.
Hi, I'm Spam, and I'm drinking the Michter Small Batch Bourbon. It's excellent.
It's not your friend.
Spam's not my friend.
Spam,
my friend.
Apparently,
Spam is not your
Facebook
friend.
thinks I'm not your friend.
I'm the sleep, and I'm drinking Mr. E's bourbon. Absinthe.
Right on. So we got slides.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So once again, my name is Max. I'm from Boston. I'm here to talk about my presentation, Open Sesame, Sesame locks and the Master 175. So Sesame style locks are locks that have multiple dials on them. Sometimes they're numbers or letters. They tend to be picked because you don't need to pass out keys to everyone. You just tell them what the password is, which makes it way easier to share the access. One of the most popular Sesame locks that I've seen is the Master 175. It shows up, so the way it works is you dial in the combination, you push the body and the shackle together, you pull the body away from the shackle or the shackle away from the body, and it pops open. One of its beneficial features is that you can kind of set your own combination. Let's go super slow. So it just comes with this little key. You stick the key in while it's open. You change the dials. Mine too. What a coincidence. And
Did
that's
anyone
it.
not
And that's
luggage?
all you need to do is change the combination, so you can set it all yourself. You don't need locksmith. So this became interesting to me because Aiden, one of the other Boston members, came back from New York City Maker Faire, and he handed me this lock, and he goes, "This little girl came up to us, and she asked us if we could find out what the combination was for this lock." And I talked to the other guys, and we were looking at each other, and one of them said, "Well, there's definitely a way to do it. I just don't know anyone who knows how, but we can open it for you." So they opened the lock and then brought it back. She didn't want the lock, apparently. No combination, it wasn't worth it to her. And I was like, I got a lot of these hanging around. Like, I gotta find out now how to do this. So once I started looking into this lock, I started to see it all over the place. Here was in a botanical garden in Austin. That picture Dave posted, and it's a padlock guarding some very nice cars. All over utility plants, trucks, power boxes outside cell towers, gates into the cell towers. This Master 175, because it's super easy. You set a combination, you tell all your emergency response people, you tell all your cell maintenance, telco maintenance people, and they just have to have that one combination. They also get sold with carts for schools and institutions, full of like iPads, nice expensive cart. Whoop. Where'd I go? There we go. And here's another picture of everyone at a site with shared use that has had to put a lock there, and they can just remove one of those and open the whole thing.
really secure.
And everyone's picked a Master 175 except for one group. Second to last there. So the fact that there's a custom combination kind of makes it appealing because if you can get that combination, there's a good chance someone's reused it. We've only got so much stuff we can keep in our head. And if we have to remember a combination for the lock on the gate outside, maybe we don't want to remember a separate combination for the alarm or for our ATM pin code. Or for that really expensive combination lock, a simplex lock on a door. So if we tear this lock down, there's a whole ton of technical terms here. Let me find my mouse. Where is it? There we go. So there's the shackle, which is the thing that you put around whatever you're locking up. These two items are called pawls. They stick into the shackle. There's a spring and bar there that go in between the pawls to push them apart, keep them in place. Here's an actuator that has a tang at the top that fits in between the pawls. And these fingers at the bottom interact with flat spaces on these flywheels, which lock into the dials with numbers. And here it's a little bit more assembled, so you can see the spring, the rod in the middle. The flywheels are lined up with each of the dials, and the actuator is just removed from the lock. But who really cares how it works? I just want it open, right? So guess what? We can bypass it.
Has anyone not seen this bypass before? Oh, you're in for it. It's stupid easy.
Oh.
Stupid easy.
If you grab the lock and you take a hook and you insert it above a dial, you push the body in the shackle, which removes the tension on the actuator from the pawls, and sweep to the direction of the hook's curve as you pull it away from the lock. That will have it catch on one of these fingers down here and pull the tang out from in between the pawls.
So you guys get it, like that tang is in the way of the latch pawls, right? So it has to get out of the way. Now normally, I think you were showing it, normally there's a combination of like processes of the fingers and the wheels, and normally they will drop down into the wheels.
Yeah, so there's some flat spots on the flywheels. And normally when all those are facing up towards the fingers drop down, and the other side of the actuator, the tang, comes up out of the pawls.
Yeah, so it's like a seesaw. But imagine a seesaw that isn't actually really well connected at the pivot. If all you want is the kid on the other end of the seesaw to go up, you don't have to really fuck around with like your side goes down. You just walk over there and pull the kid up.
So here's a quick video of, so the lock is locked here.
Move the mouse.
Move the mouse.
Move them, there you go. Everyone feels better.
And there's the hook over here, and I'm gonna pull down, which is gonna pull the other side up, and I let go, and
That's it.
the lock's open.
Yeah.
That's it.
Boom.
Yeah, can you show that again?
Yeah.
Keep your eye on the right side of that actuator, the tip of that actuator that's currently in between those blocks. Do you have another video? It's kind of hard to see, man. Or do you actually have one?
I
Have a demo?
I have it here, so
Oh,
we got the document camera. We got a way to switch to the document.
Well, we'd have to refuck the HDMI. How many more slides you
How
got?
about I go through it and then
Yeah,
do-
yeah.
we
Go
do
through the rest of
yeah.
your slides, and then we'll.
Think you fixed it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then,
Lols.
All right, everybody drink. It's
Drink.
all right.
Bring it time.
Right on. Is this a HackerCon or what? So good.
AP's hard.
We all right? We're making this work. Yeah, camera's coming up. Let's see. Camera ready? Woo!
No? They,
No, that's Max's slides again.
No.
Let me see it. Oh, all right. Yeah. Let me get out of your way. Let me bump that up.
So
Oh, come on.
sticker. I'm bad at stickers.
There we go.
It's so much easier.
All right. So it's locked. If I push it in, it's not going to open. So now, I'm just going to work the hook in. Still look good. And I'm going to pull down and away.
Yeah.
That's it.
Open.
All right.
No, you want to demonstrate the other?
Yeah,
the-
sure.
the Quick
As soon
stick?
as, one more time, hopefully you can see it a bit better now.
It slips sometimes.
While it's easy to do, don't do it with our tools.
There you go. So that is the first bypass.
Open.
And there's another bypass.
Switch places.
You just got to hold the light. Yeah. There's far more than one way to skin this cat.
Yeah.
So this is another tool. Basically, it's just a piece of feeler gauge with a handle on it.
It's a tool that has like 19 different names.
Yeah.
So every manufacturer calls
Quick
it something
shims, decoders.
Easy decoder,
Push
mini
your hands forward a
knife.
little bit.
Yeah,
You're off camera.
Oh.
There you go.
it's all right. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I can actually see the camera now. So basically, all you do is you work that in along the side of these wheels. It can be kind of tight sometimes.
You gotta be real careful. If it really starts to seem like it's veering off, then you probably aren't in the right spot.
Yeah.
A lot of people try to say the right side of the third wheel, but no matter if it's not working in there, flip the dials, try a different one. You can get it in all 4 dials. Doesn't really matter which one, unless you hit the spring.
There we go.
Got it?
And before you release the shackle, just show them that actuator lifting. You got a good angle on it right here.
If I can actually get it in.
Can you see it?
I can do it.
You there?
Yeah, so here. And you wrote, here, hold that. So if we show it from the top, maybe?
No, it's the tool isn't quite in.
Oh, that's
Oh.
The tool isn't quite in place. Getting a bit beat up, so. There you go.
Yeah.
Like, wee! All the way out of where it should be there.
Yeah.
And then you just let go and it pops open.
Open.
Very cool.
So Max, you told Master Lock about this, right?
I mean, they've apparently known about it for a while.
And how many fucks were given?
0.
The new ones are fixed. The new lines are actually fixed now.
No, they're not. The black ones aren't either.
They're just
No.
harder. It's not fixed.
Stanley's copy does actually
correct.
have precautions to protect against these bypass attacks.
And I realize I spoke over Avi a little bit. Now, there are the new ones. There's a couple varieties. The ones that have the ribs down the side, those are fixed.
Hey, Dave.
Well, they're not as vulnerable.
I'll get to it if you want.
Oh, sweet. It's coming up. You want this? Or oh, good. We're rocking. Sweet.
So, as we just saw, there's not one but 2 bypasses. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide because we just went over it, but you insert the little tool in on either side of the dial, push in on the shackle into the body, lever up, let go of the shackle, it'll pop open. You guys already saw something? So I had a lot of, I heard everyone said, oh, you can totally decode this. And there were a ton of videos of people decoding locks that look like this. And they're like, oh, it's so easy. And I talked to a bunch of people and they were like, yeah, you probably can, but I don't know how to do it. I'm like, all right, so this really bothered me. So I ended up cutting the thing open. I decided, all right, I have to get into this. And I took a class on how to use a manual metal mill and just cut a lock open so I could see the bottom half of the dials. And that allowed me to determine that more about how the flywheels worked. So there's a well here that this piece in the bottom of the lock fits into, and there's a flat spot here. And so the flat spots go underneath the fingers, and the well is for when you change the combination. It allows the flywheel to move over that.
Are they directly opposite one another?
They are. The center of the flat is exactly 5 off from the center of the well. So if you can find one of them, you know exactly where the other one is. So instead of having to go through the dial 10 times at the most, it's just 5 times at the most. And you work on one dial at a time. Here's just a little image showing how the flywheel and the dials fit together. So this really cut down the fact that they were straight from each other, the amount of stuff that had to be tested, and how quickly we could decode this. So the actuator is pulled into the lock body by the spring. It's got 4 fingers that rest on the flywheel. Flywheel flats are underneath the fingers when the dials are in the correct position. The correct number for the combination is minus 2.5. That needs to be corrected from the center of the flat. So when I practice this regularly, I could decode the lock in about 5 minutes. So, you know, you pop this thing off a gate and you walk away and you decode the lock and you come back and now you've got the valid combination. That might work in other places too. Talked about that. So one other really funny thing that actually came from Deef is apparently he was training some people and he said, "Have you ever seen this?" And they all raised their hands and said, "It's on our rifles." And I'm like, really? So I'm sure there's more security there, but like maybe not the best thing. There's not? Not?
Yeah.
They're not in a secure locker, no?
That was a funny day.
I jumped out of my seat when I saw that. So Master Lock came out with a new design. Model 975, 1175, a bunch of other model numbers. They still produce the old Master 175. Including in their new line, there is at least one that has the same workings. I get a lot of people asking me like, "Oh, is this the new style Master 175 or the old style?" So this lovely cutaway picture provided by Master Lock, that's the new style. And if you want to find out, there's markings on the top that tell you the position the shackle needs to be in to change the combination that are not there on the Master 175 with the older models. Here's the Master 175 that we just talked about. It has a change keyhole on the side. So it needs to change key, change the combination. It's got the older guts inside. They've got a whole range of these. Some of the same model numbers just have an M in front of them, and that's a completely different model. So the M176 is redesigned, but it's still using the same insides. So for the new model, they still have dials. The dials still have a flywheel. The flywheels have multiple false gates here. But instead of something kind of rocking and sitting on top of them, there's a big gate that goes down into kind of wells or cuts in those flywheels. And
So the actuator moves laterally, like, right? It pushes down into them?
Yeah, it pushes up and down into them. And so then when you want to change the combination, you pull out the shackle, rotate it, and then push down the shackle, and that will move that plunger, separating the dials from the flywheel. This one, you just rotate the dials the correct combination, you pull, you don't have to push in, pull on the shackle and it opens. Combination change just involves pulling out the shackle, rotating it 90 degrees, and then putting it back to its original position. But it's not vulnerable to bypass. So not as much fun there. Yet.
Give it time.
Yeah.
But what about decoding it? So you can decode this without any tools. Even better. Move all the dials to 0 for this. Put tension on the shackle and start moving the first dial up and down. And notice how far back and forth it goes. Then release the tension on the shackle. Move to the next number, move the dial up and down. The dial that has the most play back and forth is the correct gate. That is the correct number in the combination for that wheel. So you keep moving down
Yeah.
until they're all in the right spot. And when you hit the last one, it's just going to open because you're tensioning the shackle.
Do you have some demos of these that people can play with downstairs?
I do. I have one of these. I've got my cutaways. I've got a regular one. I've got some tools.
It's fabulous.
So when I started looking into this lock, I found out that it wasn't originally a master lock design. A company called the Corbin Cabinet Lock Company had this design patented before them, and they called it the Sesame lock, which I guess is where the name comes from. They still make this lock, and it's slightly different than the master version. There's no gate, so there's just a flat spot on that flywheel. So now we kind of lose some of our fun in decoding that. They also grouped the flywheels into pairs next to the first dial and the third dial, which means you either have to have a really precise tool that's not going to bow back and forth to do one flywheel at a time, or you have to do 2 flywheels at a time. Oh, and they're moved a little bit farther away from those dials, so you really have to get down there at a right angle. They also filled some of the space around the actuator with extra metal, and they put a little, no, that's the next version. And it pushes into the actuator instead of pulling away. We can still bypass it though, just like the Master 175.
Because why not?
It's more difficult to get to work, and there's way less feedback than you're in the right spot, but it works. So, no video. All right, so Stanley makes a variant of this lock as well.
The only good one.
And we were kind of surprised. Night Owl sent me a message. He goes, "Have you seen the Stanley variant?" I'm like, "No." And so he's like, "I can't get the bypass to work." So I'm like, "What?" He's like, "No, I've been trying for a while. I even broke one of the tools." And I'm like, okay. Well, all right, now I have to go on Amazon and buy a bunch of them. So I bought a bunch of them, and sure enough, we could not get that actuator to move out of the way of the pawls without putting in the correct combination. It had way tighter tolerances. It was way more difficult for us to get the tool in there. And even when we did, it just wasn't moving.
Their seesaw is just literally properly connected at the fulcrum and doesn't have enough play to like
So yeah,
move.
so they made that tang that has to go up, they made it thicker. So there's less space for it to travel up. They had way tighter tolerances, as I was saying before, so it was harder to get the tool in. And they have an extra pin over here that's pushing into the housing of the body, so it's harder to move the plate around. But it was somewhat weaker, the top of that actuator. We accidentally knocked it off one night with a sharpened screwdriver and a bike lock. And the metal housing the metal just wasn't as good. So that's what I got. Anyone got questions? Want to give me their passwords? Mother's maiden names? Hunter 2? My password 2.
How many people have, now we had hands earlier that said some people hadn't seen the bypass. How many people have seen these locks in the field and are now interested in trying this? Yeah, like, shit is out there. Every lock you just saw Max talk about, even the old ones, are still on, like, in the retail channels today.
Yeah.
Still on store shelves.
I believe they might still be manufacturing them. Definitely that M176, which is their new line.
Sad.
And has
Oh yeah,
has the old
colored
mechanism in it
175.
because it's got the supervisor key.
Yeah.
Still used in all construction sites in New York City.
And gun
Cell
lockers,
towers?
DOD.
Yeah.
All right, are we going to switch slides back for a second?
Sure.
Woo! So that was pretty fun, right? That was off to we had to put the best person in the good slot at first. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of us up here drinking, and you think that's boring. But that was awesome. So yeah, ask Max plenty of questions, either during Q&A, during this, or just come down and try it hands-on, because I know you've seen these locks. They're all over. They're hugely popular on like infrastructure jobs, construction sites, any place you've got 1 billion people and you don't want to give out a ton of like keys. So like, all right, all the plumbers are doing the job today, so give the plumbers the code. And then next week we'll change it and the electricians come in. Like these locks are everywhere and it's astonishing. And the part that I really love, and I hadn't thought about, like I do this shit for a living, right? But Max told me, he's like, yeah, you know, what you do is the fun part isn't popping the dumbass parking lot lock. It's you pop that, go around the corner to a bar, order a beer, and then decode it. And then you have what like 4-digit code that is probably in use all over this facility. And I was like, oh shit. So yeah, solid. All right, little project stuff. Well, TOOOL had a fun project, and some people up on this stage were part of this project. How many people know that, well, how many people a couple hopes ago saw Lucas Zhao speak about Chinese locks? Right on. So not only do we have Chinese lock knowledge, we have locks in China knowledge, because TOOOL went to China and did some lock picking in China, and none of, I'm assuming within a rounding error, none of you got arrested, right? Awesome. I mean, what was it like?
I was told that 4 out of the 5 members had to come back from China.
Excellent.
But all 5 came back.
We exceeded our goals. So I just wanted you all to tell them about what it was like, and Hope is a very cool con. I like, every hacker con I could think of besides Hope be like, that's not a hacker topic, shut up, move on. But like, oh wow, people do shit differently around the world. Maybe as Americans, we can think about that. So yeah, that's kind of a Hope topic. So what was it like over there?
It was a great experience. It was different, but not as different as I would have expected. So I think I saw a lot of Euro-shaped cylinders. Because of the hotel we're in, we probably saw stuff that was more standard and manufactured than most of what Lucas has told us about the Chinese locks, where it's kind of like, oh, a lockmaker will pop up and they'll manufacture a bunch of stuff and with their own keyway and then disappear.
Vanish.
And that factory will start something else.
Master ring.
Oh yeah.
Do we have the photo?
So my HBO stopped working at like 2 a.m. So of course I needed my HBO. So I called down to the help desk, to the service, and they don't speak English. So we're trying to figure this out. So they send someone up with housekeeping. There's this big plastic white plate with keys all around it. They're not walking around with a master key. They're walking around with a master key ring. Like they didn't have master keying even in this nice hotel.
Master
And
keying
that
is
was
very
just the
uncommon in other parts of the world.
Yeah, it wasn't even like they were holding it out here and being really cautious. Like it was sideways and they were walking around with it, and I'm like, oh, okay. I wonder what's happening with those keys.
What were the attendees like? I mean, was this a new experience for them? Had they ever done any lockpicking before?
We found one guy. For the most part, it was very new to them. It was like nobody came with previous experience. And I think it took them a while to warm up to the idea of doing it. Like, oh, I'm not going to get in trouble. But this one guy showed up, and like, it was like someone showing up to work the tool village here.
Pelican case.
I was
his
like,
own gear.
who brought flex cuffs to China? And I'm looking around, and I'm like, we didn't have these on the first day. And eventually, I'm like, oh, that's not one of our people that brought that.
Was he like state security division or what
He didn't tell us that, but that's kind of what we think. He evidently made it over on the subway with a giant Pelican case and flex cuff.
He was very helpful.
Yeah. He translated for us and ran some introduction talks, so we got his contact information.
So about half of our members that went almost were fluent. So we had Lucas, we had Char, we had helpers. I didn't get to go. I was in like a Singapore job at the time, I think, but yeah.
The translators that were assigned to us left the room because we weren't asking them to do anything.
There was nothing for them to do. Like,
yeah, we had people. We rolled deep. So yeah, that was, I mean, this is, again, we're speaking to the choir here, but try to get to events out of your comfort zone. This was the first time that anyone was like gonna try this in China. And they were like, let's just try to go and see cool shit we can find and go to other events. Like, yeah, what are some of the most oddball things you found?
Well, what I found amusing was lockpicks grow legs over the weekend, right? What? Not a single one grew legs over there. Wow. None of them walked off. Not a Not a lock, not a tool, nothing.
That fish lock you can buy on Amazon.
Yeah, well, that was what the first little run to a market. Lucas got those.
Yeah, so Lucas is still our guy. So he got there early and ran out to a lock market and picked up some interesting things. I think 2 of those are cross locks on either side of the picture. So it's kind of a key that has 4 different blades and pins on each side, which we don't see here a lot. Maybe in like hotel safes.
Yeah, hospitality safes.
Or maybe not.
It's the hidden
this
lock usually that's behind the
hotel.
little brass.
The one next to the right of the fish lock is a smiley face lock with a floating core. So you can't tension the core normally. When you stick a turning tool in, it just spins around. So there are some other techniques which I don't remember that you have to do in order to tension that lock, so you can then go move the sliders. And the fish lock just kind of looks nice. I think if you move the fin on the side, that's where the key. That's the key way there.
It looks like a warded lock of some sort.
It's warded or lever.
Yeah. So look for oddball stuff at future villages that the board authorized a decent enough purchase over there. Like we spent a few hundo in US. So yeah.
We had to buy some more luggage to bring some stuff back.
That was fun.
You can get a great deal in China on sets of luggage.
Be careful, they'll throw it at you
Yes,
to
they
show
will.
you that it's not going to break. Like, that's
So, yeah,
right next to my foot. Let me just jump out of the way.
We had no idea if it would be a complete train wreck or not. And there's a lot of hacker events that are maybe in their first year, or maybe you're not sure what's going to happen. But I think everyone, and this doesn't just go for the China event, like how many people up here have ever been invited to like some event and you're like, boy, this place doesn't have their shit together. But you go and it winds up being a thing you liked, you know? Yeah. Were you going to say something?
No, I'm actually not.
I was raising my hand saying,
All right, yeah.
Now, one of the things here that I should point out that's kind of cool is if you do any traveling and you have a few free seconds, pop into a lock store, pick up a couple things, and bring them to your local tool chapter. These kinds of things are unique and they're very cool, and it's what we're all about.
Right on. So we're gonna do some questions. We can the whole time we're just gonna do questions from the audience. We're gonna do questions from Twitter. We put out the word on Twitter if anybody had questions for us, and some people were amazing enough to answer us. So while some of you are coming to a microphone or just waving your hands, we'll just repeat questions. There were, here's like an easy, like right off the hop, right? We've been here a lot from this end of the table. Like, what's your favorite lock and why? I'm looking down y'all ways.
I'll bite. All right. Master lock number 3 because it makes me feel like I'm not an idiot.
Good. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I go local. I like the FRMCS because it's completely different from all the other locks and you can't photograph the key. It's a magnetic coded lock.
Absolutely. Any other fun ones? Yeah.
Alloy Protect 2.
Ooh, yeah. You just said that to make Mitch smile. With,
I did.
He's the guy down there selling alloys, which we love because they're like our favorite lock.
I got a good one. I like the pop locks.
Oh, Rainer Pop, yeah. If you're not Pop, P-O-P-P, Pop Lock, there's a German, Rainer Pop, who makes these crazy puzzle locks. You may have heard of puzzle locks. They're usually kind of little trinkets that are cheap. Not that Pop locks are not. They are gorgeous feats of engineering, and they're always limited runs, and if you can find them, or if you know someone who might have them in a collection, try them out. They're unbelievably well made.
And there's no instructions anywhere.
Yep.
Probably my favorite is the Corbin Emhart, which is a really, really unusual lock that very unfortunately got sued off the market by Medico because they both used the principle involving simultaneously lifting and rotating the pins. The remarkable thing about Emhart, though, is that the pins actually are linked together in like a chain. So when you assemble the lock, you actually have to take all of the pins, line them up, link them together, and then you drop the entire chain of pins into the chamber. And
Yeah, it's like a tongue and
leads-
groove.
Yeah. Actually, I do have a couple of photos of an M-Heart cylinder that's been disassembled that I'm using in my workshop tomorrow.
EMHARDT, I believe.
Just T.
M-Heart, EMHART.
Yep.
Yeah, Google the photos. They're amazing. Matt Blaze, I think, took some up-close photos, and other people
Yeah.
have. That's an awesome answer. And I like that it's not just a design-based answer, but it has like weird intricacies of turmoil and legal and lawsuits and all kind of crazy bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, look. Someone asked us, what are your favorite lock picks? From what are your favorite locks to what's your favorite pick?
You just want to
Right here. Oh, what's that? Oh, wait.
just want to stand up and ask?
Oh,
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes.
Are the lock picks we like choose and like really love like crazy? Like, are they like describing who we are, kind of like horoscopes? Maybe I'm joking. I hate horoscopes.
So yeah, do people look like their pets? Do people feel like they're lock picks? I do. Because I used to be very precise about a lot of things till I realized I could bowl my way through life, which is why I reach for the tool rakes now.
Yeah, I rake the shit out of everything because I'm super lazy.
Yeah,
and,
because it's gonna
that's how I
work
live
most
my
of the
life.
time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or
Laziness.
you can customize your pins like Anne and put glitter on them.
So minimal effort is what we're shooting for.
Laziness is the mother of invention.
That happens to be my personal favorite pick. It's fairly well used. It is a Peterson hook number 1 in their 18 thousandths thickness, and I find it is just an incredible tool.
It's really thin.
Yeah, but the nice thing about it is that it is very thin, but it still has most of the stiffness of their 25 thousandths or 23 thousandths tools. So it doesn't bend, it's very sturdy feeling and gives, for me, I think, great feedback. And it's thin enough that I can actually fit that entirely vertically in an American lock keyway, which is normally something that you can't do. You have to sort of work in at odd angles. It's kind of uncomfortable. With this, I'm able to just go straight up and down without.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Anybody down there?
The Locksport.
Oh, what do you got?
Glitter picks.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Anne won't get up here, but I'm still going to show her stuff off.
I didn't bring my goodies.
Mine are downstairs.
Oh, yes.
You were picking with the stars.
Thank you.
Oh my God, that's gorgeous.
Oh, I'm not ashamed. I'm not.
No, they're
This is like Scotland's workshop.
nice. It's sparkly.
That is so cool.
But I
God
think
damn.
we can all say if someone uses a half diamond regularly, you're a weirdo of it. It's,
Any last comment? And have we been? Are there any like hands in the crowd? Like we will repeat your question. It doesn't have to be about picks or locks. Yeah,
we got one
in the
back
back.
Come on, make your way up.
Make your way up or just shout. Be American. I demand attention. What?
Tap lock.
Tap lock. TAPP.
yeah, they're trying to make a name.
Yeah.
What would you do differently?
Anybody not under NDA with tap lock? Go ahead. I'm just kidding. No, who doesn't know about tap lock? The biometric padlock? Yeah, they're brand off to a rough start.
No, they're good unless you have a screwdriver.
Nobody had screwdrivers.
It's still secure if you don't have one, right?
Yeah, they're impenetrable unless you have a screwdriver. So it's a niche market. That's what they're shooting for.
But that was their official statement, right?
Yeah.
That's what they said.
yeah,
It's still
No,
safe
that's- if you look it
unless
up-
somebody has a screwdriver.
Their line was, we cannot be open unless you have a screwdriver. So, I mean, how many of us have ever seen a screwdriver or have one with an accent?
What's a screwdriver?
Right.
Isn't that like orange juice and vodka?
Fill up.
How does that open it?
Oh. Yes. Everyone give us one of these.
So is someone?
Oh, this is awesome.
Someone holds the plate up.
What am I doing then?
Very good.
Did you get it?
My wife became a Catholic late in life. I left Catholicism early in life. I see. Is that Patrick?
Yes, it is.
Oh my God, I'm amazing. Right on. What's up, man?
So, those of us who are implanted with NFC chips and stuff like that.
Boom. Who has a biohacked implant? Not a lot of hands. All right, go on.
I'm frustrated at the lack of good quality NFC residential locks in the market. Any thoughts,
Yes.
feelings, rants, reasons why you think that is?
Yeah, I'm going to give, if Bobak were here, he would give a much more comprehensive answer. For those who don't know, NFC or near field is basically contactless smart card, which is, there's a lot of mixed up and muddied terms, but it is a high frequency protocol, so it's not your low frequency procs, Indala, like busted old bullshit. NFC as a protocol is very extensible and does cool things, but a lot of that market is super tied up with HID. And HID doesn't like to license in the same way that NXP. So MyFair, NXP Semiconductor from Germany, if you have like a hotel key card and it's ever wireless, like not a mag stripe, that's always going to be NXP, basically to the live long day. Because NXP and MyFair is in everything. You don't see iClass or a lot of other NFC-based technologies as much outside of like corporate enterprise solutions. So that's a big part of it. It's more expensive to kind of interact with those systems. Those systems have key management that's handled differently. For instance, a lot of the like contactless home locks, some that use MyFair, in fact, because they're using MyFair. Like MyFair's out there. It's like MyFair Ultralight, super cheap. What they're not actually doing is the full handshake and MyFair applications pages. They're doing shit like authenticating by CSID or card ID, card serial number. So to do contactless right is to kind of use, well, either good MyFair or to use NFC. That means expensive. That means probably not for not residential. But I see Ray does way more shit on this. Can you fill us in here?
Yeah, I think the question was, why is there so much shit out there? And I think the easy answer is because it all looks the same. So if I have a contactless lock, you can't see that's a difficult key, that's a simple key, that's a complicated mechanism. And you also can't just take the lock apart and see, oh, they've done it very good, that looks tight tolerances. So it's just easy to get away with a shitty lock, unless someone really goes into it and finds the vulnerabilities. But that's the big problem of all these electronic locks I've looked into, that you can't judge the quality by looking at it. You really have to take it apart, and we're not free workers for the industry, so not many people do it. And from China there comes so much stuff that's basically impossible to keep track of.
It's not just NFC locks, it's NFC anything.
It's not just NFC,
Like
it's electronic. We have Bluetooth locks, we have so much silly Bluetooth locks, and this fingerprint lock, and basically all this electronic stuff has the same problem.
Even in the commercial sector now, Bluetooth low energy is very, very rapidly replacing the few NFC equipped locks that were on the market that were made by reputable brands and were actually fairly decent. Now their new versions are pretty much all Bluetooth low energy.
And who knows what they're doing.
Right. And again, that's a convenience factor, right? Like, who's going to adopt it if you need to carry an extra credential? Everyone has a smartphone. If you sell something, there are enterprise security solutions now that are considering moves to BLE because everyone has their phone on them. Not everyone remembers their wallet or their card.
I happen to know of at least 2 or 3 companies in New York City right now that are using Bluetooth low energy equipped locks in place of or in addition to their old existing HID card reader systems.
All of the big 4 on the internet, the big 4 brands of the internet that you know, like every one of them has a working group internal that's deciding, is it time to get rid of badges? Because that's been a debate in the industry for years. Can't we just do something else? Can't we do bio? Can't we do face? And now that smartphones have become so prevalent, that's the new hotness, and you're going to hear more and more of this.
How will people sneak into buildings if they can't have a badge to fake?
Oh, we have ways.
I know you have ways.
There's lots of other ways.
Yeah.
And we also got some litigation that's out there and some laws like the UCDP, which is going to restrict how employers can use bio information. So that's something, they're not going away tomorrow, that's for sure.
In general, the best answer, which you've been hearing from most people, is remember, none of this exists in a vacuum. The idea of what's awesome in a lab and super secure doesn't always translate to what's feasible for a marketplace. And that, I mean, Christ, that's the story of everything that somebody's hacked on and broken, is because, why is this so dumb? Well, because the secure version was on the market and failed because no one used it.
And because it cost $500.
Yeah, nothing exists in a vacuum.
Door.
Also, the RFID industry is still of the mindset where it's easier to sue away disclosures than actually fix anything.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, truth. These words are correct words. We'll take a couple more questions and then a couple more stories. And are you guys enjoying this kind of free-form format? Is this fun?
Wait, does anybody need a drink?
Yeah. Whoever asks good questions, when you're done your question, walk
come
this
up
way.
here, we have cups,
Yeah, we'll give you
so-
stuff. We got free lock picks.
Yeah.
We got another question. Go ahead.
Yep. So I actually have kind of a two-part but closely related question.
All right.
So the first one is on the topic of shit locks that are out there. Is there any residential grade smart lock that you guys don't think is a piece of crap? And second of all, is in the residential space, is there any locks using keys that you feel is practically unpickable or unpickable?
Yeah, possibly. I mean,
Okay.
like, there's yeah.
So the first part is smart lock that's not shit.
Right.
For res, especially.
For res.
For servicing that market is hard.
Like, how smart do you want to go?
So basically something where you don't have to use a key or...
Right.
Right.
If your smart lock connects to the internet, you're a fucking dummy.
Exactly. Agreed.
Right?
Yeah, that's just, that's immediately a bad sign.
That's a bad idea.
So specifically, like something that's NFC, something that's Bluetooth, something of that
Yeah,
nature.
something, what I like to call those the relative from out of town convenience lock.
Right.
Where you're not dealing with like keys because you're not a landlord. Honestly, does anyone else up here, have you ever tried Samsung smart lock?
No,
The
Samsungs are good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's the only one I
I
like.
haven't had to deal with service.
No? Oh, someone's shouting no.
No, shit.
This will come to blows.
So if you change out the secondary,
What was
Wait,
that?
what?
the mean time to failure.
according to them, is 1 to 3 years.
What? 3 years is longer than any relationship I've ever had. Like, that's a long time.
But so with those smart locks, like the problem is that there's always a secondary lock to open them. Sorry.
Yep. What can't even high horse?
Yeah. That's a valid point. So from the factory, there a lot of the electronic locks, even a good one, might come with a terrible like rim cylinder that's pickable.
So my friend got one, and it's like that touchpad where you have to touch like 4 random numbers, and then you punch your code in. And he was like, I bet you can't pick this open. And he was like, touch the pad, and you got to punch these codes, and you got to dial all these numbers. And then he had just a basic Schlage underneath it. They came with the lock. He paid $400, and he got a basic Schlage lock. And I just picked that open, and I was like, your door's open. He's like, you can't attack like that. You have to do the digital. And I was like, your door is open.
More cybers.
It's the cybers, yeah.
Yeah, but I really would stay away from recommending any electronic lock currently, because basically you don't have the source code, nobody gives you the source code, you can't look into it like in a mechanical lock. So really use it for convenience, but if you want high security, I think you only can say which locks are not hacked yet, not which are unhackable.
Well, that leads to
my
the second
point as well,
the
but I
second
just-
part of the question, right? What is your favorite mechanical type cylinder? Even one that is available for residential.
I think we have a common answer here, right?
Might be. On 3, shall we? 1, 2, 3. Alloy?
ProTech.
Yeah,
ProTech.
The ProTech is what I use, but I wanted to know if there's something else out there.
Yeah.
As I said, the FMCS is the second one, which is hard to pick probably. But the same as the ProTech is hard to pick. We can't say for sure it's impossible because people are discussing ways. So, but those two. The ProTech?
Yeah, who's
Go
got
down
a
to
ProTech
security
key? Just
store.
throw it onto the camera. Mine's in the room. Oh, you have it? All right, we actually have ProTech keys.
Yeah, show your key. Very clever idea.
Everybody start taking pictures now.
No pictures.
Yeah, that's the effort.
That's an HD camera, right?
As long as it doesn't get on the internet. Oh, that's MCS.
Yeah, that's the MCS.
Nobody's gonna be watching.
That you can show.
Take all the pictures you want. Ain't gonna do anything.
What? Oh.
Oh, yeah,
We
got
should be
those
up.
two.
Change the monitor.
Come on.
There we go.
So that's the EVA MCS, 4 magnetic discs in there. Each face of the magnet, the polarity is aligned differently. So this side it might be one way, and over here it's the other way.
so what he's saying, this is not like north, south, north, and this is like south, south, north. These are helically charged magnets. They have just, imagine a Trivial Pursuit wheel with zones of magnetism that are all oriented in a pie. Yeah.
Are there 8? There are 8 zones per each of those
There's
wheels?
4 on each face, and they relate, but not perfectly to one another. Yeah.
Each
No, these are
rotor
4 on
has
each
8
face.
positions.
Right. So there's 4
it's
here
8.
that are different zones. Well, there's 8 positions, but so
Yeah.
these 4 are different than these 4, and each of them have 8 possible orientations.
So a magnetized lockpick will not help you open it.
Not really.
Bobick swears somebody has manipulated one open.
Yeah, it has been
A
done.
couple of people talking about attempts and experimental tool designs for it. I do not personally know of any that have been particularly successful.
The Germans did a fake key. They did a makeup key once.
Yeah, you can copy it. For a long time, it has said it's hard to copy the key. That's not true. You can copy the key with relatively usual measures. And the other thing is that there are people trying to pick it. They possibly succeeded on some locks. But this is very special. So there are like 3 or 4 people in the world who claim they picked it. So that's as close to unpickable as you'll get with any lock.
Yeah, but putting this kind of lock in a hollow door or leaving a side window open is a bad idea.
The MCS,
150 or something, 200.
about 200.
$200
I think, last I
per
checked.
cylinder. Yeah.
You can actually go check with Mitch from Security Snobs downstairs in the vendor area. I bought mine from him last year.
Hey, Mitch,
It was
wait
about
for the crowd.
$200.
Yeah, Mitch is over there.
There's also
Right
the
there.
Miwa that
is
you
that?
can get. It's just a magnetic one that has no bitting. The only problem is that the magnets fall off over time, like less than a year.
So the magnets fall
There
off the
are
magnet lock.
there are other issues with the Miwa locks, particularly the older ones from the 80s and early 90s, where because they were dealing with magnets, they wanted to make sure that they used nothing that could get jammed up with the magnets. So they used plastic. Load-bearing components of that lock were plastic. So really just a really big screwdriver, crank the thing over, just like the old Quickset smart keys.
Yeah, first.
Oh, the master key.
Yeah.
The really big
Super master
screwdriver.
key. Yeah. We realized David on the internet asked the same question. Hopefully this has hit some of that, but it's never just the simplest answer, right? It's never like, oh, the best lock ever because everyone thinks it's undestroyable. But like, yes, that's going to be the $100 more than you want to spend solution, or it's going to be not compatible with the rest of your house. You have Primus. There's some Primus cutaways we're going to show in a bit. Like, I honestly like Primus. My buddy Drew hates Primus because he's the Primus whisperer. Like, he can wreck Primus systems because he's one of the 5 people that can. But they're backwards compatible with bullshit Schlage, and it makes a lot of clients. I mean, you've got to have clients that you've been recommending Primus to.
Yeah, no, it's a very, in a lot of ways, it's a very good lock. It easily retrofits existing residential and commercial Schlage lock sets. Not to mention that a lot of other manufacturers make their hardware compatible with Schlage style cylinders. So you can relatively easily just swap out the core just as if you were rekeying the lock, except you're going from your cheap little $10, $20 Schlage cylinder to a much more secure and much more difficult to manipulate cylinder.
But it's really looking at the total picture, as Steve kind of and some of the others have started to suggest. Because I've had people sit there and go like, oh, how good is my lock? And I would look to my right, and I'm on the ground floor. I'm like, hey, you keep that window locked? And they're like, no, I'm always arguing with so-and-so about it. I'm like, yeah, they're coming in through the window. Like, you can put the best lock on there ever, or like, keep your door unlocked. They're probably going to try that window because they can hide behind the bushes and all that other stuff. So get like a good lock, not like the best lock. And also, like, make sure you lock your windows, depending on where you are, maybe get an alarm system, make sure your door isn't, like, paper thin with nothing in the middle.
Yeah,
It's really about the whole thing.
Right.
You lock your door
Layers.
at night.
Exactly.
Layers,
All
exactly.
About layers.
They also use the Schlage Primus on Grand Central. All the locks
Yes.
on Grand Central.
Yes, they do.
All Caesar's properties are great. Schlage Primus.
One of the good techniques
also
that
my fair.
Click was telling me about a couple of years ago, if you're actually paranoid like he was when he was here in New York, well, you had 6 locks on the door, or was it 5? 5 locks. Now, here's the trick to this, okay? There's 5 locks on the door, but he only locks 2. Good luck.
It was the same where I lived. We used to have 3 locks on my door, and we'd have a guest come over and give them the locks, the keys to the locks. They don't know if they're locking or unlocking because they're not all going the same direction. So I hear
Sure,
click,
that's
click,
from
click,
MacGyver.
click outside. They keep locking and unlocking each one. They don't know what they're doing.
Gives you more time to start loading the gun if you're not expecting it.
Absolutely. Yes.
We'll do a couple more at the mic, and then we'll show you some more shit. What's up?
I'm looking for stories of memorable lockpicking fails, tools exploding, etc.
Ooh. Tools exploding.
Tools exploding.
Man, we're
how about
making the
locks
wrong
melting?
kind of tools. I don't think I've had anything explode.
I guess
I've had locks explode, but not tools
Night Owl's got
explode.
something.
Yeah, probably the most memorable for me was actually earlier this year at Lockfest. I was sitting down. We have one of those timed head-to-head lockpicking games, and this thing is just, what was it, a bunch of quickset deadbolt cylinders in there, and I start off with like, oh yeah, it's a quickset. It's going to be really easy. I'll just start by raking it. About 12 seconds in, I feel a snap, and I come away with just the handle in my hand, and the entire head of the rake jammed deep into the lock cylinder. I'm like, oh. Yeah, okay, that's going to be a bit tricky because I left my like professional work kit locked up upstairs, and that's where all my extractors are. So I think I finished that round with a time of about 6 minutes because I had to go upstairs to my room, get my luggage, come back down, fix the lock, and then pick it again.
That's still a shockingly respectable time for like you're hauling ass.
Yeah.
I'm really disappointed I missed
6
this
days.
whole thing.
Who? Anybody else busted up some tools or anything?
So this isn't so much the lock exploding as injury to the person who was picking.
All right.
So
Sleep. How'd you hurt yourself?
Oh, it wasn't me.
Oh, all right.
Uh-huh. So
Bob,
I'm going to assume
for a friend.
Yeah, so I'm
Asking
gonna,
for a friend.
So I'm going to assume everyone here has picked a lock at some point, either here or just somewhere. So you know that you want to apply gentle pressure on the turning tool. Not as much that your skin gets discolored, or in the case of one person I was teaching, the metal of the turning tool is cutting into their finger and I have to get a first aid kit.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Somebody's got some anger issues.
You got some Kalon picks.
Some shit. When I was doing the class earlier today, I was just telling them, says if you see your skin turning white or on that turning tool or blood, you're using
Turning
it too hard.
Anyone else?
I mean, I've had locks go flying. The first time I got back from a training class, and I was like, oh, I can totally pick my desk lock, right? Bad idea. What do we tell you in our intro? Bad idea.
Two.
So the whole thing popped right out, and I was not expecting that. Oh, shit, I want to go home.
He doesn't own that lock.
So I just took some Scotch tape and I shoved the cord back in there. And I'm like, I'll deal with this tomorrow, right? It's just my desk. Yeah.
Yeah, but
so I found out
who
about
owned that
chain
lock?
scrapers. Huh?
Who owned that lock?
No comment.
After that, it was
Yeah, you break it, you bought it.
I don't know, officer.
Is he up
Definitely
here?
not wearing a
Is
tool
he-
shed.
No.
Can we get another question, please?
So this is multi-parted. What was the first lock you ever lockpicked, and what was your motivation behind doing that? And then what was the last one you picked for the first time?
Oh.
Wait, what was
the last? So like the last,
Wait, what was
something
the
you've
first
never
one?
done before. The first lock you've ever picked.
The last one you tried to pick for
Yeah.
the first time, successfully.
First lock I ever picked
Master lock number 3.
was my apartment door at 3 a.m.
Were you sober?
This was before school. I lived in California at the time, and I went to take my garbage out at 3 a.m. and like you do. And I took it out, I dropped it off, and I came back, and my door like automatically locked, and I left the keys inside.
But not
So I
his pick.
sat on YouTube for like an hour, like researching how
That's
to
when
pick
you
a
check
lock.
the windows.
Couldn't windows were all locked.
Is this an apartment?
It was an apartment. I was on the second
You can
floor.
call like the.
Yeah, you
But this is a
probably
better
can.
story. Keep going. Keep going.
So I ended up using an insurance card for my medical insurance, and I shimmed the lock open, and I felt like a god. I was like, I have opened this lock. I am amazing. And then I was like, wait a second. I'm not secure at all. I just used a piece of plastic to open this door. Anybody could do that.
We haven't heard
So I-
Smoke Legend a lot. I want to hear Smoke.
Yeah, I got one of those. It happened when I was younger. I used to leave my keys at home as a young teenager, and my mom's apartment building at the time was so crappy that you could shim the lock, no problem. But we got it, me and my brother got it to the level where you could just bump it with your butt. And you could get it. Yeah, that was like 12, 13 years old, just bumping it.
What city was that? Are you from New York?
It was Maryland.
Oh, Maryland.
Yeah, Maryland.
Said Maryland.
Maryland.
Orland.
Maryland.
I think mine was handcuffs.
Oh, there's a story here.
Getting kinky.
Mine as well.
End of story.
Allegedly, they said I was shoplifting at the Tower Records in South Street in Philadelphia.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
That's a very detailed allegation.
It's right? Like, the tape was lying. So that's when I learned how handcuffs work. And that's when I learned the same day, wow, handcuffs are really fucking simple to pick.
Jesus Christ.
Allegedly. Let's be clear.
It's all hypothetical.
All right, come on, Deviant. We know you got a
As a
story.
board member, I'll point out you were not a member of TOOL at the time.
See?
Oh, here's the disclaimer.
What would allegedly happen after one picks handcuffs?
Oh, you fucking run away.
Allegedly. Allegedly.
But like,
Allegedly, of course.
allegedly. All right.
Once again, Tool has two rules.
This is before Tool.
Had to break in both of them.
You don't know.
Run very fast.
To rely on.
Well, our rules for handcuffs are consent, and I did not consent, so I thought it was okay.
Right, but the second rule is don't use that to escape police custody. Police powers.
Were these handcuffs made of plastic?
Plastic and a little bit of aluminum.
Right.
There we go.
So
Okay.
I have answers for both parts.
Do it.
The first part, the first lock that I ever picked was a very simple warded cabinet lock. It's the kind that has no real complex bitting or anything, and I think I managed to pick it with a popsicle stick. This was in pre-K. And the teacher had locked themselves out of the art supply cabinet, and I've always liked being helpful, so I just scrounged around for some bits and bobs off the floor, and after a couple of minutes of poking things around,
I've seen what grown-ups do.
yeah,
It goes in the lock.
I figured out, more or less how it works, and okay, we can do art time now.
What kind of grown-ups did you see doing that?
I grew up in Brooklyn,
Oh, there you go.
And the most recent thing that I picked for the first time was a pair of Smith & Wesson Smith & Wesson 100 Cuff Max handcuffs, which are a pair of standard Smith & Wesson Model 100s retrofitted with a driverless cam lock version of
So the
the
Asadesmo.
Medico M3.
the Medico, okay.
Yeah, I have the Medico M3. They do also make an Asadesmo.
As a Medico,
version.
you can pick with the diamond, right? If you move
Yeah,
left and right.
actually, I use that same short hook.
But the Smith & Wesson cuff, if you watch the Hope Talk from like 6 years ago,
Oh yes, no, you
have a bypass. So
Yeah. Who's in that talk?
if everybody's drinking,
There's a lot of
the first lock I ever picked was the door lock of my sister's room, I guess.
Whoa!
Just to
What? Huh?
just to annoy her.
Come on,
But the fun story of that part is that my father is quite fit with building stuff, and this lock is still the only inner house door lock in my parents' house, which has a high security ABO cylinder in it now.
Awesome. Awesome.
So people always wonder, why do you have an outer door lock inside your house? But she feels better that way.
That story sounded out.
I was like 7.
It took a turn. It took a turn.
I like that.
All right.
So I'm really curious. We're going to keep doing questions in the audience as well, but did anyone bring an actual lock to show off?
Yeah, do we have any challenges today?
Don't throw it.
Throw it up here.
No.
Throw it up. It's fine. Just throw it up here.
Can we text your phone while you're showing
If you have a photo.
One hand. I see it.
If you don't
If you
throw
have a
locks
lock-
at us, we won't.
Oh, no.
fix it.
Anybody on the live stream, DM Avi
Yeah, just
right
come
now.
on up.
Wait, I have a photo from Spain.
All right, look, get your photo and we get this lock.
Look, Iberico doesn't count. All right. We're already jealous.
It was really good Iberico.
Oh, yeah. As you're coming up, do you like bourbon, scotch, rye, or aquavit? Bourbon. All right. There you go.
All right, head scotch.
What do you got?
It might not be anything special. I just from thrift store.
From a thrift store. Okay.
It's got some deep.
So
It's a tough lock.
there's our camera. There we go.
Oh, there we
Okay.
Yeah, tell me all you can about it.
Oh, I know that.
Okay. So I mean, this is it's an imitator to the American 700, right?
Yep.
It's hardened.
They're not so secure.
If you see that,
That's usually a pretty good sign that it's in fact not hardened at all.
if you see the word harden, that means no.
Hit it harder. That's what it means.
Yeah, as our friend always said, it's easier to print hardened on a body than to produce a hardened body.
Right.
So that is not an American
Chinese.
keyway. That is interesting. It's actually a really wide keyway. I'm wondering if that accepts a couple of blanks.
Do we get a bunch of keys we can just try
that
and
looks that
see
could be
what
an
fits?
M1 or an M11.
It's not an M1, M11 probably.
Does anyone want to try to pick it while we're talking?
Yeah, sure.
Got some.
All right. We'll pass it over there.
Pass it around.
Where did you? What's your name, man?
Wait, you've already got your tools out.
Jackson. Is this your first Hope? You've been to Hope before?
It's my third hope.
Solid, man. Where are you from?
Illinois.
Illinois.
Well,
Excellent.
I live here now. I'm gonna go back to Illinois.
Groovy.
Yeah. Too crowded. Too crowded.
And we almost like.
Open.
There we go.
Oh!
All right, Jackson.
4 seconds. I was counting. 4 seconds.
Thank you, Jackson. Solid.
Any security pins in there at all?
I don't know, I just dragged it with my snake.
No. If there are,
But
they don't
I
actually
don't
work.
think there were.
But it was hardened.
All right. I'm going to hand you my phone. You don't swipe right. You don't
This
swipe
is
left.
very. I feel so meta now.
No, so actually, this isn't a bathroom I found in Spain like 2 weeks ago. Oh, so this is from a bathroom I was at in Spain by like the sea. So like I was really curious, and yeah, that's the actual lock in the inside once you're actually inside the bathroom. Yeah, I have no idea how it works. So I was like, ooh,
Fascinating.
Wow. That's
no, it's not number one, but yeah, whatever. But yeah, isn't that super weird?
How many pictures?
it has to be.
Yeah. Oh, so I mean, it's the same photo like over a billion times. Yeah. So I have no idea how it works, honestly. So that's like my first like, whoa.
You sure there's no duct tape in there?
Oh really? Oh shucks, really?
Yeah.
What? Oh yeah, there's no tailpiece on
Oh
it.
god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I was asking if there's duct tape in there or something. How was it held together?
So
Oh man, my bathroom's not secured. Shit.
from the look of that, it originally was probably fitted with some sort of gear to engage with those
Yeah.
holes in that bolt, and that broke, and they just decided we don't really need to worry about it.
Not important.
Who needs a locked bathroom door?
Yeah.
Well, really quick, we weren't sure how many locks would show up, so we threw a few slides in. There's this really fun lock so this Slate and Slaymaker company, they changed names a couple times. I love, all credit goes to a fellow named MacGyver on the Lockpicking 101 forums who put all these photos up. You probably know him better than I, because I don't idle in the forums, but I saw this post and I was like, oh God, I have to buy one. And you saw this post and you're like, I have to buy one. So the BIA, by the way, is the Bureau of Industrial Alcohol. You'll see on a lot of these locks. This is when, during Prohibition, you were allowed to make alcohol for industrial purposes. And then it would be denatured if you had, but like there was this whole control of alcohol going on. So it's a nice, environmental cover, slide cover to get the, the big heavy lever lock in there. Yeah, lever key, nice through hole shackle. So it's got a nice throw. But when the lock is open, you can cleave open this front plate. The whole front plate comes open. And you're like, well, what's this? Is this for servicing? Is that, you can see, it's still just the keyway, right? But there's these holes and there's these little spikes on the plate that pops up. This is a seal lock.
Yep.
So a paper seal, a actual stamp, like it's not tacky on the back, but much in the way the government has always, if you like firearms or liquor, they love their tax stamps, right?
You like our stamps.
Yeah, like government loves stamps,
It's our
right?
jam.
So they would print and you could see, not only is the stamp, they were different colors, so different series, the numbers were over this multiple spots. Those teeth actually punch right through and grab the stamp, and then when you shut the lock, under the shutter, it's a piece of paper. And you have to bust through the paper to use anything, to use the key, to use picks if you try to. And it's a really cool solution. And you don't see them anymore because they're impractical for a number of reasons. I mean, you're gonna get paper tied up in the lock eventually, and it's a type of key that no one services anymore. It's not rekeyable. So there's a lot of reasons in the market why
And I think the prohibition also ended in this
Yes,
country.
prohibition ended.
We're
Thank
bringing
God.
it back. We're bringing it back. It's good.
I'll drink to that. How does that stand up to rain?
Does anyone have any stories of how would you actually try to get anything in there? I don't, Datagram and the MFPs, man, how the fuck would they try to fuck with this thing?
They would reprint the seal.
Yeah, try to reprint the seal.
That's your best bet.
I would break the window.
Tamper-proof challenge. Or use
Yeah.
the bypass from above or something.
But as far as there's so many old designs that are out there now, and I mean, they're gorgeous. And the one you found is even better. Every now and then you'll find cool shit on eBay, and then Squelch will bid against you, and you won't get it. But absolutely, their lock collections are really fun, and I used to look for interesting things, and then it got way too expensive. I don't anymore.
Pass this one.
Yeah.
Pass it down
Yeah,
here.
pass it.
Squelch Tone. He runs Lockpicking
Squelch.
101.
Squelch,
He has
stand.
all your locks.
Come on.
I expect to see
I've been locks for the last 15 years, and when I got tired of locks, I started safecracking, and I sold my lock collection and bought a new car.
For those in the back, he's like, I used to pick a lot of locks, and then I sold most of my lock collection. He's like, then I bought a Jeep Cherokee. It's yeah, locks. You got some really. There's some of our friends have way gorgeous collections of stuff.
I didn't want to hoard them because I wanted to share the technology.
I appreciate that. It's we all appreciate it.
Also, if nobody follows Squelch Tone on
You should.
Twitter,
You should.
You should follow Squelch Tone.
especially because he posts the eBay things, and he's like, "Hey, has anybody seen this before?" And then I'm sure he's already bought it.
It's sold out. Hey, medical cam locks for $2, and you're like, well, that's great, but I was working, and now they're gone.
But do follow
that was kind of my
him.
fault.
He's always got he always posts lock deals from eBay.
Yeah.
And we're not saying that because he's here, he's not paying us for it, but
They've been
He's not
standing-
paying you guys for that?
They've been standing a
Missed
while.
out.
Even if you don't have a lock, we'll take one more, and then Ray's gonna do a demo about some cybery locks with crypto, right? Shout it out. Can't hear you.
Louder! Speak up.
Oh, AV guy, turn the crowd mic on.
This thing on?
Way to go, Aiden.
All right, quick question.
Yes.
What do you know about the old Presto locks with the dials?
Ooh, Presto lock. Anybody?
The four dials on the sides.
4 dials on one side, usually a round bezel around it, flat, usually a long shackle.
Yeah, that is actually also Presto, like Sesame, is another sub-brand of the Corbin cabinet lock. They've been making that same design since at least the 1950s. That brand is largely used for TSA luggage locks.
Where's the key?
They are also another combination lock that you can decode without tools in most cases. Basically, you just pull on the shackle and you turn each wheel. Usually the wheel furthest away from the shackle will bind first, and you just turn it until you feel a little sort of pop.
Yeah, they pretty much all either have a gate or a flat that something needs to pass through or fall down onto. So you can start to tension it and figure it out, or you can look through. There was one TSA lock where I was like, I'm having trouble with this, and I took it out of the cup holder in my car one morning before getting coffee, and I'm like, oh, hey, I can see right through it here. Because the sunlight was shining all the way through, and I'm like, all right, well, now I found the marker. There was another lock someone handed me today that was flat and had dials on the side. And yeah, just look either with a flashlight and pull the wheel to the side for something unique on the wheel there, or use a piece of feeler gauge to try to figure that out.
That shit is fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, how much of hacking is either pulling the curtain to see what's behind that the world's not supposed to see, or stressing the system and make it behave in a way it's not supposed to behave? Like, that's Locksport in a nutshell in so many ways.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Can we talk with Ray for a little bit right now?
You can.
Who would like to hear from Ray, who came all the way across the pond?
You want to hear from Ray?
Now, I know I had Ray's slides, but are they in the wrong spot? I think, oh yeah, I put them a little bit further in. Give me 1 second. Oh, I should drink. Someone give me more of my bourbon. And I'll just jump back. There's no key.
Somebody give him a straw.
First.
Yeah, all right.
First, yeah.
Ready? I'm gonna hand you this Click-O-Matic. Big button.
Big button, okay. So this is obviously not the Nokia, it's the Dog and Bone, because I wanted to start with a simple thing. So this is another, like 2 years ago I talked shortly about electronic lockpicking, and I still can recommend go into it because, as we had heard earlier, the industry is producing crap all over the world. So open these things, analyze them. This thing is like $80 or something, using mobile phone application, everything. And if you look closer, you see it's basically spring-loaded in the center. So the app is still not very secure as far as I know, but you can shim this lock. So I don't know, $80 shimmable lock. Say what? What the fuck? I mean, who brings something like that to the market?
So can you make like you just need a soda can, right, to make it?
Yeah, there's videos all over YouTube of
you drink some soda before you take the lock off.
Yeah.
And you
I mean,
cut
we
it
know
up.
that from $5 locks, but from $80 locks, I don't know. Probably they changed it now. I don't know. This is the version I got 2 years ago. Actually ordered it here to New York, and same day I got it, I knew, oh shit. Okay, the Nokia is a little bit different kind. We analyzed the hardware quite well. There's an SFDev paper by Michael Hübler. So if you're interested in the inner workings of that lock, search on the SSDev page or search for Nokia SSDev. You should find the paper. But so far, we didn't find a mechanical or magnetic or other bypass of that kind. So the mechanics are quite okay. And actually, 2 years ago, I talked about having broken it, but not releasing the details because we were in vendor disclosure. 2 weeks later at DEF CON, and sorry to Rose Ramsey for making fun of him again, he posted that slide in his talk. Very good talk. He took apart like 12 Bluetooth padlocks, which were all real crap. And the Nokia was not that much crap, obviously. But as I said earlier, calling something uncrackable or uncracked is a bit difficult. What annoyed me much more was the blog post by Nokia, which I already had vendor disclosed my findings to. And they posted a blog post, the Nokia is the uncracked Bluetooth padlock of DEF CON. So I think that was a little bit, I don't know.
Premature?
Yeah.
Way.
Possibly they have different departures for technical and for public relations, I don't know. So let's do the full disclosure here. So what I told...
Wait, there's something blurred out here.
Yeah, that's, I think, my personal... No, I don't know. What I told you already... Yeah, I still use it, lock on my bike. No, I don't. So what I told you 2 years ago again is go and look into these things. This is actually using a man-in-the-middle proxy on the TLS of my mobile phone, so I can watch the communication between the application and the server of Nokia. So obviously you can easily see this is a way to recover your password in case you have forgotten it. But this, of course, is not a real attack because it's my own mobile phone, so this is not an attack to the lock, but it's just interesting to see how it works. What is more interesting, we saw how the shared locks feature works. So you, friends can share locks to me, and then in my app, I can, when I log in, I get these records over the internet, and I see there's a lock key in there, which is a hex string, and there's a time in which time I'm allowed to open that lock. The funny thing is, even if the time expires, the lock key, of course, stays the same. So if I modify my app, I can open the lock from that time on, always using that key. Nice thing is they put an option to rekey your lock, but unless you do that, the time restriction isn't really working. But you don't have to actually hack the app. You can just use the man-in-the-middle proxy and let him replace 2016 by 2066.
Same.
And using the original app can still open the lock. So there's a small thing more. They do an online check, but it asks the server, is he still allowed? I can man-in-the-middle the server and answer, yes, it's still allowed. So the time restriction on that is not really the cleverest. But that's still not hacking the lock, right? That's just a friend gave me the things and the restriction is not so exact. So what we actually wanted to do is sniffing the lock. And as I also said, get a Bluetooth sniffer. Who has ever sniffed Bluetooth LE? Very few hands. That's really easy. The sniffers are out there. They can be bought by Adafruit. You can build your own by flashing the Nordic sniffer firmware to any Nordic dev board. There's Wireshark plugins. So sniffing Bluetooth low energy really is easy. And the talk I made a little bit fun earlier sniffed like 12 locks who used clear text passwords. So everybody with a sniffer could have found out that in minutes. So look at your stuff, and the person who asked what locks to recommend, at least try that on the things you buy. So sniff all your Bluetooth. So the no key we sniffed here, and we got some very cryptic strings. It looked pretty randomly, so the distribution of ones and zeros is very even, so it's probably really encrypted. And they also claim to use AES encryption, so that's industry-grade, unbreakable encryption, as we all know, right? The star note always is if done right. And I want to put a small disclaimer. This is actually the 2 years ago research, and they, of course, after our disclosure, changed things. I can't tell anything about the new version because we haven't really looked into it too closely, but that is the old version, and it was there for almost 2 years on the market and like 6 months after our disclosure. Okay, so it's crypto. We decompiled the app and found that. I think I told it also. It's a very nice key of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that was fun last time already, right? So, but even if it would be a better key, the key was in the application, so it's in your phone, and you can find it in your phone, because your phone has to know the secret to communicate with the lock. So in this way, even a better key wouldn't have been much better. So if we use that to decode the message that we sniffed, we get a not so random message anymore, and there's a structure in it, 7E, some command string. So that works for the 2 first messages, which basically just say, oh, I'm the phone, I'm the lock. And then we get garbage again. So we had to go into the harder part of it. The application, if you decompile it, also something I can recommend, decompile your applications. There's online decompilers, just upload the APK, you get back a Java source. Sometimes obfuscated, sometimes it's not obfuscated. In this time part, there was an assembler part inside the app, so we had to start up IDA Pro, and thanks to the friends who helped me on that, it's really working through the assembler code is actually quite some work. But if you do it, you find a function like that, which basically is an XOR on some bytes. And after figuring it out, we saw what they're doing in these first 2 messages is they create a session key. So we send something to the lock creates a random number and sends it back. And then by XORing the 2 code sent, the app that was modified by me to send 42, the lock sent a random number. We add this to the center of the silly default key of 0, 1, and so on, basically like it's aligned. So you XOR it and add it exactly in the center. You get a session key, and using this session key, the whole rest of the communication is encrypted. So if I use that key and decrypt the next message, I actually get, again, a readable command, and the thing in what you see in the button is actually the lock key. So if I sniff a communication of somebody opening his lock, I can fully read it. I don't have to know any prior stuff. I don't watch his pairing or anything. Just from the third message, I got his lock key and own his lock forever. So it's AES encrypted, but AES done wrong.
Yeah.
Fucking nice.
Yeah,
Wow.
so open.
Wow. Yeah.
Open for sure.
About half the room understood that, and they're so stunned into silence, and the other half of the room wants to download IDA right now.
Yeah, but you don't always have to download IDA. As I said, the no key was one of the more harder locks. Most of the Bluetooth stuff is much easier. Just sniff it, or it's awful out there. So we come to the easier part. If you're actually, I want to do some advertisement. If you're more interested in the details of the no-key hack, go to YouTube for lockpicking in the IoT. So you'll find a 1-hour talk by me disclosing everything in very detail. So this is just a short teaser to make you interested. So this is basically something for everybody, and it was discovered by Michael Hübler from the Munich Locksport. Is there a question regarding the other thing? No. Possibly later. So Michael Hübler from the Munich Sport Group ordered also some electronic locks, and this is like an Euro cylinder for European doors where you enter a key code and then you can turn the knob. And what he discovered is that silly plate in the front, you can remove it quite easily with a screwdriver, and what you find is a cable. If you put 5 volts on that, the lock opens. And there seem to be some variants of that. So kudos, Michael. I think he released that on the Amazon review of the lock. So I think the vendor disclosure matches the quality of the lock.
What's this crazy bike picture you got next?
Yeah, you just spoiled it. I wanted to ask you, what do you see here?
Sorry.
Those are bicycles.
Yeah, that's bicycles.
Okay, bicycles. I got it.
So what he sees here is bicycles. What I see here is locks. So each of these bicycles has a Bluetooth lock on them. So of course one company called O-Bike. This bike isn't the O-Bike because the O-Bikes are yellow. Flooded all over Europe with like thousands of bikes. They lie around in cities, and they were really awful bikes. You don't want to drive them. And meanwhile, they're bankrupt, so I think we can tell everything. which isn't so bad, because we basically did what I pray. We analyzed the Bluetooth, we decompiled the app. The app is heavily obfuscated. It was possible to read some of the functions. And all we found out is that the lock is actually sending a challenge to the server of O-Bike, and the app is just relaying it. So there's no secret in the app. The only secret is in the lock. The lock is, the processor is locked down, so you can't read out the firmware. And the server obviously has another secret. We think it's DES encrypted, but we didn't find a key or anything. So that's actually done quite okay from what we found. The other thing is, another member of our group found that in that slot that you see here where you lock it, you can insert a bent piece of metal, reach the actor on the top, and pop the lock open. So that's the other lesson with electronic locks. There's often a second way, usually an easier one.
Right.
And I think I had to go fast because we're quite short on schedule, so that was my part on electronic locks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ray. Can we do another question from the audience, please?
Yes. So
I know that voice.
Hi, baby.
Not yelling at you.
So the question I've got is for folks that are interested in actual physical access security, access controls for buildings. There's ODA on everything, but the question is this: if you're satisficing between the best kind of remote authentication for any kind of access controls and the physical locks that you can gain access to buildings with, what's the combination of the best remote authentication protocol, such as, whatever it is, RFID, MyFair, whatever, and the physical access that is on a given door? What's the combination of the two things that make it, the least likely to be targeted by such professionals as yourselves?
I mean, I can tell you what we use in our Munich hackerspace, and that's a combination of SSH and Apply ProTech.
Very nice.
But it's not industry standard.
Higher bar to implement.
And to use. SSH is not so convenient in your pocket. But
in America, we're fucking lazy as shit. All right? That's kind of our jam. Yeah, the lowest common denominator, the simplest password, the simplest implementation. Whatever makes Dave get up in the morning and have to bring one fucking thing to work. And the password's 1234 because everybody knows it. When I fire him, the password's still 1234. Yeah. We're all about the low bar.
Seriously, the first time I showed up at a new job on the first day, 1234 on the touchpad in the door.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4 on the raised floor in the data center.
Mm-hmm.
That's security.
Just
right?
lazy.
Security theater, it's kind of our
Lazy
jam.
fucking-
So-
But now, like, we're just, we're shitting all over stuff because that's kind of what we do, right? But there's never supposed to be one instance where shit goes wrong. Like,
Yeah.
someone on this side of the room was talking. I've heard the word layers keep popping up when people ask stuff.
Layers.
I think that was
Like onions?
Yes.
All about
Yes,
layers.
absolutely.
Parfait.
Yeah.
The more, it comes down to the more paranoid you are, the more layers you have. Click, I think, was the most paranoid out of all of us with 5 layers.
His cats. He had to protect.
I have 2 cameras.
But I
Does
love that
count
because
as
they were
2
cheap.
different layers.
The layers don't have to be expensive.
Oh, I thought you meant the cats were.
Yeah, my cameras. My cameras were $10 on eBay each. So that's $20. Come on,
Yeah.
stop being cheap.
And layers don't always work either, though, so you have to be honest with yourself. Look at what's his name just did with the prank call and actually called the president on Air Force One. There's lots of layers between Air Force One and a generic caller calling the White House.
But they were homogeneous layers.
Yes.
There was one, I'm going to bet, one architect who sold that system, and that team built every piece of it. And I don't want to,
It was more social engineering than anything else.
here, like, I don't want to be the fucking cuck libtard snowflake, as everyone online calls me in the ill mob, but like, if you put diversity in your fucking teams, if you have different voices building different shit, you're going to have a way more secure system because you're going to build in things that I wasn't thinking of, or Night Owl wasn't thinking of, or Max wasn't thinking of, or Lady Merlin wasn't thinking of. Like, different voices are going to have their own perspective, and if you fuck with that, get different fucking voices on your security team, and it's going to break the brains of everyone trying to break in.
I think, yeah, that's what it comes down to. Yeah, in the financial industry, they have a similar way that they diversify your funds. Depending on your age, they do a 70-30 split. It should be maybe a 50-50 split, depending on how paranoid you are. Maybe you have 5 locks on your door lock and you only lock 2 of them, but then you have a security camera that's 24/7 that's to a VPN that only you have access to. There's all types of rabbit holes you can go into, but just, again, don't rely on just one means of security because that's your weakest link.
Rely on different voices. What were you going to say?
But also, the voices in your head are good.
And a little bit of paranoia goes a long way.
Yeah. Amen.
And actually check that every security mechanism you're using is working as it's supposed to. Because especially with RFID, I see all the time that they'll utilize maybe a decent crypto standard, but the key will be the hex code for white. All that.
Or it's default. They don't even bother to change it.
Yeah.
Right.
Or maybe you have the same key as everyone else who bought that device. Like if you used iClass Legacy.
How many times have you heard the story where someone goes to the car park after going to the mall, they go to a white Toyota, go in, start it up, go home, and then realize it's not my car.
Yeah. Skeleton keys.
It's not a skeleton key. It's a wafer.
Are we
lock.
showing our age?
Right, maybe.
No.
No, it's just that.
Yeah, I agree. We still got people who've been standing diligently. Can we take one more? And we'll show you some photos and take one more and just. Are y'all still having fun?
Yeah.
Right on. Shout it out. AV, turn them up.
More liquor.
So my comment is that you've all turned different shades of pink due to the alcohol that
It's
you've
the
been...
lighting.
It's lighting.
So,
It's lighting.
Yeah.
Lighting.
I'm gonna go with
They
that.
changed the lighting.
My question
White
is
lighting.
about
Now it's
the
pink.
master Bluetooth lock. Maybe I came late, but tell me how to own this lock.
Oh yeah, I
How much are you paying per hour?
Did you say master lock?
Yeah.
The
The master Bluetooth. Yeah, we looked actually. I think I have it in the other talk I mentioned, but we haven't successfully hacked the Bluetooth part yet. But there's 2 sizes of the master Bluetooth locks: the small, like normal padlock-sized one, and the outdoor version, which is a little bit more heavy. And the smaller version, at least in the versions I owned, I could open with a magnet. So there's, I think, even a video of it in my other talks, the lockpicking in the IoT, where you slide magnet from side to side and you rotate this way the motor inside the lock. It's basically the same vulnerability they had in the old electronic master lock with the 4 directions, so no Bluetooth, just 4 buttons, and you can enter a code. That one was very easy to open, like also Michael Hübler in Munich discovered the first time, I think. And we told them that, so basically before releasing it on the CCC Congress, and except for threatening us with some legal stuff, they didn't really react, except for telling possibly we add some shielding. In this Bluetooth lock, they added some shielding, so you have to use one size a bigger magnet.
But the outdoor lock is the one that I was referring to.
I'm curious.
I didn't manage to open the outdoor lock with the magnet, but the mechanism is the same, so probably 3 sizes more bigger, I don't know.
So are the Bluetooth, excuse me, are they vulnerable to replay attacks?
As far as I can tell, no. So it was not like a simple replayable code. I might have overlooked something, so we didn't go too far into it because it was boring after opening it with the magnet, I must admit. The same goes for the dock and bone. I didn't look too deeply into the Bluetooth, but that one obviously is replayable. The master lock might be better in that respect.
Right on. We got a couple more people there. Can I just want to show a couple photos. I'm going to be really quick. There's something my wife and I built that I've been really happy with, that people enjoyed. The booze box, right?
Oh, no, I thought you meant what? Booze? What?
So, yeah, the liquor lockers, the booze box, the ethanol access. We had all these names for this thing. We were visiting friends of ours, Mike and Liz. They're out in this little town in faraway Washington, and this, in Port Townsend. We go into this antique shop, and we found this old mailbox, and it's really neat. So the Federal Lock Company made this interesting combination dial. It's a gorgeous kind of system. If you've ever seen these little multi-point stars on an old mailbox, most of which have been retrofit nowadays with just key-based locks because no one wants to dial a combination. So I bought this fucking thing. I was like, oh, baby, check this out. We got to make room in the truck. Putting this in it. I'm buying this thing. Help me get this upstairs because it weighs 1 billion pounds. And so I take it home, and the locks, of course, they're super old. They're all shit. They're all corroded, and getting them apart sucked. And I'm like, all right, we'll just throw everything ultrasonic. If you've seen my liquor hacking talk, we have this Chinesium ultrasonic bath that we use for dumb shit. So, I'm like, all right, I'm going to clean up the locks. Okay, get them all nice, make them polished. And she's looking at me. She's like, why are you spending all this time, bathing? And someone on Twitter said this looked like I was deep frying locks. They're like, what are you doing?
You're not wrong.
I bet you do. I bet you do.
Extra crispy. So, we're cleaning up these locks. And I was like, no, I got a plan. Trust me, I got a plan. And I keep going back to Home Depot. And, I'm like, all right, I need solvent. She's like, what? Like the mineral spirits? I'm like, no, I need stronger solvent. Because there's this caked on awful paint on the front of this thing. So I'm slathering on all this terrible stuff. Nothing's moving. Yes, Jasco. Which, if you never use Jasco, get the long gloves because it burns your hands.
Ventilation is necessary.
Yep.
Yes.
But, you put Jasco in an ultrasonic and heat it, and it will actually chew away decades-old, terrible carcinogen.
A respirator.
Yes, known to cause California
and some brain
cancer.
cells.
This paint. Definitely, scrub that shit off, and you reveal gorgeous brass underneath. So, all right, we're getting somewhere. And I do old furniture restoration, so she and I are out there just busting up, the wood and staining it 1 billion times. Night Owl was helping me figure out that, the keys that are involved. I love that this touches on all different parts of Locksport, like old shit, hard to get shit, because these keys are supposedly restricted. They're the reverse Yale 8 keyway. So you have, in America, you're not supposed to order these, but, overseas, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
So we ordered JMA and
Fuck
Jet,
America.
they make the blanks. So I cut up some new keys, and I got this plan, right? I got this whole chart in my head, and I'm start pinning up locks. And I'm putting all these together, and I stamp them all so I can keep track of them, because you'll see there's purpose, right? And she, lovingly, she's watching me just spend, on all day. I'm not answering calls. You were in, I don't know where the hell you were on a job, and I'm like, all right, I'm busying myself down in the workshop and putting locks back together. And I'm sending her weird photos. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing a double D panel prep, and it's how you install a lock correctly when it's an abloy.
Wait.
Yeah.
So what was your response to all that? It was great, take trash out. It was.
I believe my response was,
was, okay, if you load it in the back of the truck, I'll drive, baby.
She will drive, I will tilt it in the truck. So like all this stuff, we put it together, and I put a back door on it, because a post box doesn't have a back door, right? So the whole idea is that now, like it all works, because I got it with like no keys worked, so like I had to repin everything works. So here's the idea. At first, I thought it would just be a cool, like one more wine rack, because we have a lot of booze in our house. So I'm like, all right, we could put all the, different wines in it, and it's not actually a good wine rack. You can't see what the hell's in it. But here's what it is. I made a contest box. And all the locks get progressively harder and harder and harder and harder, and as you go up and up and up. So
does the booze get better?
Yes, the booze. That's the point. Yes. So we went to tour camp. If you don't go to, how many people anywhere in this room? You're probably gonna get more hands than most places. Go to the hacker camps in Europe. Like you've gone to the Dutch camps or the Germans, Chaos Camp, or in the U.S. the one camp we have is tour camp. We went to tour camp and we brought the booze box and we filled it up with like wines and whiskeys, and we're like, hey, anybody who can get a door open, like it's yours. So it was the most self-running contest all weekend, and everyone.
When did he get old enough to drink?
Brett's 21.
Yeah, he's not now. It's
going in the wrong way.
Brett showed me an ID. It said
his fake ID is super convincing.
And it was the best part of our weekend to watch all of our friends like liberate these bottles of liquor and just be able to and everyone who, like half the people who got bottles were like, hey, who needs a drink? Like, I just want to pour drinks for friends. Most people cared about picking more than they cared about the booze. So,
although,
yes.
Let's be clear.
So never discount the idea of anything that gets people to, I love Locksport in that way, that it gets people to show up. It gets people to say, oh, what's going on over there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Kenny. If anybody doesn't know Kenny, absolutely Aptasavi.
Portland,
Iris.
Oregon.
Yes, Portland, exactly. So build lock games and make all the cool games you've seen down in the village have all been just someone who's like, oh my God, I could maybe make a thing that would make people interested. And it makes other people show up. And you don't have to give away like crazy good liquor. You can just give away fun.
It does help. It helps.
We gave away like $1,000 worth of liquor that weekend, yes. But
he supported the team.
Yes,
amen.
Exactly. Just have fun with the thing. Think of the things you build as a way for people to show and be like, oh, what's happening over there? And then they sit down and then they keep trying. So we had a great time with that. By the way, if you want to do the super low rent version of this, Booker's Bourbon comes in that box, right?
Super good.
Yes. So you can take that box, just Dremel the plastic like an inch short. Drill a hole through the top of the box. Now the plastic will slide in, but if you put a padlock through it, it can't slide back out. And what I do is I take these boxes, I go to bars and with friends, so we'll ask the bartender for a pint glass, and we'll put a pint glass in, slide the plastic, put a lock on it, and say anyone who can liberate the glass will buy your next round. And it becomes this fun party. It becomes this thing where people are like, oh, what's that person trying? Be like, well, they got 3 seconds left you want to try for a free beer? You can try for a free beer. Do anything that gets people involved, whatever kind of hacking you're doing. And yeah, we're gonna finish with everyone who's standing up right now. I swear to God, I'm gonna get your questions. But has everyone had fun so far tonight?
More booze.
Before we do the questions, can the New York chapter talk a little bit about the bottle again and who is not with us tonight, please?
Oh, hey, all right.
You take that?
Yeah.
Stand out.
I'm Chaz, and I was given the bottle, and I really don't know how long Mr. E had been hanging out with TOOOL New York City, but he was an interesting character.
Amen.
He loved locks. He loved picking it, and he loved hanging out with us, and he was a really cool guy. If you came to any of our TOOOL meetings in New York City, most of us back those days were meeting up at 181st Street up by the George Washington Bridge. Way uptown.
Take a ride.
Mr. E was the kind of skinny guy who always wore a bandana around his neck to cover up the fact that he had one of these
voice
things.
box.
He had a voice box. And, you know, I'm not mocking him. That's the way he was. And when you have one of those things, you can't yell. So he really appreciated the fact that we met up at 181st Street at a quiet restaurant, and we dumped our locks on the tables and we picked them, and he asked Night Owl and Click and everybody else about this and that, and he was just a wonderful guy. And he was a kind of kooky. And before he passed, and he didn't know if he was going to survive the last treatment or not, he handed me this bottle of absinthe, which everybody's gotten a glass of, hopefully. And we miss him dearly. He was kooky, but he was a good guy. He was kind-hearted. He never said anything bad about anybody. And I salute him. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. E.
Mr. E.
Mr.
We
E.
miss you.
And now everyone who's been diligently waiting, please, yes. What are your questions?
So I've been going.
Oh, 1 minute. Oh shit! 1 minute.
What?
Oh Christ!
What?
No.
Quick, ask
I've
your
been-
question.
Everyone else, we will answer your questions down in the village.
been going to
All this booze continues.
Speed. So I've been going to Hub conferences since about the beginning, and want to thank you guys for some of the skills. And one skill in particular I really appreciated, talking about hacking all sorts of kind of things, was I was in Europe where there was a toilet where the toilet roll paper was 1 foot diameter. And I pulled and got just one square, and then it was locked. And I could get nothing. So always remember to have something with you that you could improvise into a lockpick.
Amen.
And
what'd you have?
Skills from all of my meetings here over the decades, and was able to salvage that.
What'd you use? Come on, speak up. What'd you
I
use
want to
now?
thank you guys. And then I'll ask my other question later.
Locksport helping you shit in peace since 1990 something.
That's what we do. That's what we do. We support that message.
One thing. So the first time I purchased progressive locks was, I think, like DEF CON 19, and I did pick all of those locks on the toilet.
And
in his defense,
or you picked other locks while on the toilet.
On the toilet.
It was in and out, then it was locks. It was.
Sure it was, buddy. Sure it was.
It was in and out.
And on that,
Official statement.
A big round of applause.
So do you think at the Hope 2020 we should have 3 hours?
Tool NYC, Tool DC, Tool Boston, Tool across the world. Am I right?
Tool Germany?
Tool across the world, damn it. Tool everywhere.
In Germany, we
Everybody's
still have
a tool.
SSDEF, the oldest lockpicking sports club of the world.
They want you to know.
Damn right.
We're Tool.
Keep finding friends who are different than you in different places, because you're more the same than you know, and you'll learn more than you could ever imagine. That's why Hope is awesome.
I think the biggest thing for Tool is we wouldn't be here if you weren't here to come help us out and come pick locks. So all the villages you come to, thank you for that. Thank you for learning.
Wait. Okay, they
go for BS.
They turn the light off on Steve Rombaum, not me.
Oh God.